we're very happy to have Franz back to join us for this from his Lakeside retreat. But Franz has, of course, been part of the project from nearly the beginning. I remember meeting him at the Minnesota Highfield workshop when we were just getting going and thinking about this. Franz was born in Forchheim. He's a true Franconian. He never got very far for long from there. He's tried to get away, but he's always back in Franconia. He started in Siemens in 1983. As I mentioned, he tried to get away several times, including several multi-year stays in Boston. The latest one with us, 2000 to 2003, to help ramp up the NMR Center at the time's relationship with Siemens, but also to ramp up the 7T. And at Siemens, he's been integral in many areas: EPI development, gradient lab, high field team. But around here, he's pretty much seen as the guy you go to shake things up. And now that he's retired, you know, maybe he's shaking up his lake house, but still shaking things up. So please join me in welcoming our advocate for crazy projects, Franz.
I can tell you one thing, it's good to be back, that's for sure. It's always a great feeling to come back to Boston. So when Larry asked me to come, sure, I said, I'm coming. And I give you the part list creators view, more or less. I wasn't too deep into the development of the 7T here, but I just watched it growing and I give you my view. And definitely, Larry, thanks a lot for kicking me out of my retirement hammock. That's usually the spot in the summer where I take my midday nap, and keeping me away from joining my brother in the forestry walk, these wild rides on the tractor, mostly only on two wheels. That's about the time where we do that. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. I have to give a disclaimer. The true reason why I accepted it, because it gave me the chance to dig through my whole vast collection of 200,000 images and pick out Lightroom collection of images and pick out the most compelling ones related to MGH. So I stripped it down to 1,000, and a few of them I will show in my talk. And it also, typically I use this kind of a challenge to strengthen my neural activity. I mean, Sudoku for man is not really exciting, so I got into video editing, which is similar to sequence programming. We have several traces and you can play with different pulses, pictures, or whatever. Anyway, in the times of quid pro quo and facts, nothing but facts, and you don't know what is fake and what is facts, I'm sticking to the facts here, and just have a look where it goes. 20 years, really? Is it really 20 years already? So here are some pictures of the guys I've worked with over the years. And some of them got happier. It's obvious that Larry and Andreas gained in happiness very seriously. Not sure about me. Christina, from a photo-shy personality to an on-stage personality, there's more about it. Chris, as usual, skeptics. Thomas Benner, from a hula dancer to a very serious skeptic person. John, you could see his age wisdom growing. And Thomas, I mean, he kind of morphed from a free young guy to a kind of mobster movie star. And of course, this list would not be complete without having Greg on there. And you wonder why there's this question mark here. It was tough to get most reasonable images from Greg and Bruce. So I found these ones from a drinking contest. And that was at this famous Bergkirchweih in Erlangen, which I have a lot of pictures which I can show later on. And just to stick to the facts, he had beer and Bruce was drinking water because of his Mormon belief. So he had, I don't know how many liters of water. Don't know how many you had, Bruce. So. Anyway, in these 20 years, we lost a few guys. Bruce mentioned Al Brandenstein. I think he passed away. And unfortunately, it's very sad to the Highfield community. We lost Graham there. And Didi, for me, the soul of the NMR Center. And Jack, I mean, when you look at this image, it's obviously Jack behind. Jack, by the way, he also passed away. And whenever there's an anniversary of all sorts for 70s, I put together a little stop motion video, which I take from old speed limit signs and modify it. So here's the one of the making of the MGH 70. And I think I have some drama here also. 10 years were there because I missed the 10 years anniversary. So that's sharpening the video editing skills. Indeed, it was 20 years and I found the proof. So this was the flow chart basically, which Doug put together, Doug Kelly. And it was dating to the 14th of December of 99. And I think I jumped over one important thing. It's actually also the 20 years anniversary of the Siemens MGH relation. And I recall that about that time, we were vacationing on the Madeira Island, and I got a call from Herman Bregwart, and he just told me, look, we just sold you to MGH. I was happy to be here. Anyway, it's 20 years. And this is what I put together. I'll give you a brief intro how I got into ultra high field. It was not by intention, just dragged me in. Show a few pics about the installation, the way I observed it. First images similar to what Larry showed, first really exciting ones. And then the adventures of the RX coils and the PTX adventure and wrapping it up. So I started 1983 at 0.1 Tesla. And at the same year, we got up to this 0.35 and then 0.5 and 1 Tesla and 1.5 Tesla. And already in 1988, we started the EPI scanner in our corporate research facility at 2 Tesla. Because at that time, everyone was running the EPI at 2 Tesla. I still don't know why, but especially ANMR, and later I think that got installed at the MGH here, that scanner, where Ken and Jack did their seminal work on functional MRI. So we started it to do cardiac imaging, because everybody thought this is quick, you can do cardiac imaging. It was very tough, and I mean, basically we gave up on cardiac imaging. And the first images we took were kind of loaded with RF noise and spikes. And I recall that day when I went to Eric Reinhardt, the boss at that time, to show it to him. I worked until 4 a.m. in the morning to eradicate the spikes out of the raw data and get some decent images out of it. So we decided to switch back to 1 Tesla. And that was actually a very, very nice field strength to work with EPI. Bob Turner came around, it's good to see him also. So we did very nice EPI scans with central nervous system, but also this old stuff Ken and others were doing, and Peter Banditini and so on. So we did some breath hold study. Michael Staling, this guy who could hold the breath for 1.5 minutes, you could see the signal drop. And we did also this photic stimulation. I recall we had these big eyeglasses on, and you can see the bold response. So anyway, it finally ended up in a book where I got forced in by Michael, and I had to get in Bob Turner to finish that book. And Bruce was writing a chapter, and I think Ken Kwong also. So that gets the circle to MGH again. And we finally moved up to 3 Tesla when I started here at MGH in 2000 with the Allegra scanner. It was a very nice scanner, but not for clinical scanning, but really great for fMRI. With a gradient coil in there, they were humming away. But we had a lot of issues with RF stability and instabilities and all that stuff. And John Kirsch can tell a lot about it, Andreas. And Larry basically wisened up the RF coil companies around the globe. They all came here and they learned how to build coil and make it stable. And we had to do our share to get rid of these instabilities. When that was gone, it was pretty relaxing in a self-running system. Then we moved on to the 3T whole body scanner in 2001. The fear inside the company was the magnet would need way too much iron, 60 kilogram, which is kind of forbidden at that time because you get drifts in the fMRI images. So we hired Peter Starewitz and his group, RRI, and there we came up with ideas. We put an extra iron ring, a C2 ring there, and in the end they calculated that we need 6.2 kilograms. In the end, we needed 6.1, and that was fine for fMRI and all that stuff. What did we do? Cardiac. Denise Hinton was very happy about it, comparing body coil with phased array coils. And in the end, of course, you do EPI and diffusion, and it helps a lot getting rid of the artifacts if you go up with the pad factors. This is what I experienced in the lab in Allen Corporate Research. We had a 4T scanner, which later on went to Camille Uberberg's group. It was 1.25 meters in diameter, so we walked through this scanner, and that's the only time I was in the scanner. I managed not to get imaged in there. It was very interesting getting into 4T. But what I experienced was this very impressive 4 Tesla thing. And I never had this kind of fringe before. We tried it on that scanner again, just for testing purposes before we shipped it, by knocking the burst disk. It was just, but that one was so impressive. So we were in the office and it was shaking like an earthquake, really rumbling. You could hear from the noise. And one guy, Helmut, just said, "Oh, it's just a 4T, it's quenching." And just cool walking out. But suddenly one of the guys made a very quick step and all the others behind him out the building like crazy. So it was very impressive. The other topic to be mentioned is, you could already see these dielectric effects. And to me, the learning was 4T is powerful, but MRI can suck also, image quality wise. And then I moved into the 7T world. The first action for 7T was stealing a gradient amplifier for Camille Uberberg's group. They dismantled the Allegra at WashU and put the new console there, and told Gregor, come on, take this amplifier. They throw it away. You don't have them anyway. So that was my first action in the 7T world. But the true, say, dive into was when I was creating the part list, putting all the parts together, based on Doug Kelly's flowchart, and writing the special delivery release document also in July 2000. When you're in the 7T, you're up for travel adventures. One of it I had with Doug Kelly. So we were set to meet with the Trumpf Medical guys in a city, either Saalfeld or Neustadt an der Saale. I kind of mixed it up. And I bought tickets to go to Neustadt an der Saale. We got out of the car and we entered the cab and said, "Oh, go get us to Trumpf Medical." And the cab driver said, "Trumpf who? I don't know him." So we called up Weiler, Doug, I think you remember, and told him, "Look, the cab driver doesn't know where you are." I said, "What? Let me talk to him." So Weiler talked to him. And then he said, "I think you're at the wrong city." So we drove back to this Y point, and I told Doug, "You gotta go there, get a ticket. I have to go back because at that time I was already a very important manager. I had a meeting or whatever, and let Doug alone." So he's still here, so he didn't get lost in Franconia. When you go into the 7T, there is a kind of sanity check.
She'll now demonstrate what happens when you place a rolled up dollar bill on the gantry of the 7 Tesla.
We put a dollar bill there.
Voila.
That's sucked in. So 7T is expensive. I think it was mentioned by Bruce already. You need a lot of money, 1 million per Tesla. That's where the ONDCB and Hans Breiter came in. And 7T is also kind of strange when it comes to interaction. So everything is talking to each other. This is a resistance plot of a Y gradient, I think it's AC88 or whatever, at 0 Tesla, at 3 Tesla, and at 7 Tesla. And we measured it here together with Chris, and we were wondering, what the hell is all that stuff? This is all mechanical resonances reflecting into the impedance. So in the end, what it meant, first you have to avoid it, and you have to have good gradient amplifier. This is where you get serious into the 7T world. And also, it's easy to get crappy 7T images, and 7T can pretty awkward. This is, let's say, the analysis of the AC88 images. Larry showed it. So you get this fancy kind of artifacts in there. That's related to the head coil, which has a far-reaching out field into the neck. And the gradients are pretty linear, but they are non-linear outside where the RF is exciting, and the magnetic field is still very homogeneous there. This is where you get these artifacts. And Graham Wiggins, he tried to kind of fight it by putting up this straitjacket. So there was an RF shield over the shoulder and iron sewn into this jacket. I think some folks do still recall. But in the end, it didn't help. You can't fight the main magnetic field. It was a good try. And then when things go south, MGH used heavy gradient anyway. So this is a few through the bore. This is the whole body gradient coil. This is the AC88. And I recall, I couldn't find that picture. There was even an animal gradient coil stuck in there. So 3 gradient coils inside the bore. And whenever you go to high field, you don't go fast and quick. You go for long scans, especially these animal scanners. So things are breaking. The forces are up if you go to 7T, and the MGH demands were also up. So things were breaking. And once we had a broken AC88, and the only way to repair it was just do it by hand. So Simon, who always won a kind of a rough design award whatever he built, he bought some Home Depot stuff, and we built this drill bit, and Simon was holding in the middle. Andreas was in the scanner, looking upward, pointing to the right screw to drill that out. And Larry was the master on the drill. Well, that's how you get in there. And another disaster happened when Bay 5 was underwater. I think Larry was gone. And I recall it was a Sunday afternoon. Mary called me, Franz, in her broad New England dialect slang. Please come help, shit happens. So there's rain on building 75. And basically at the back of the magnet, everything was swimming. And I recall that receptacle, which I just put up out of the water not to get destroyed. So anyway, that rain was so heavy. I don't know whether it was a rain or a frozen pipe. It also hit Larry's office. Do you recall that? All his library got lost. I could save that gracefully and say, actually a really interesting book about McLean, the history of McLean Hospital, worth reading it. Anyway, so other things, a safety check, 7T has fatal attractions. I got in there with my StarTech. I usually kept myself. That was the only one in my professional life that I got into the 7T with a StarTech on. Got in, smashed entirely. And I got a new one, not so nice. I mean, they're revamping the StarTech these days, I hear again, as a smartphone. The other safety thing I recall is this burned red in the 9.4. I mean, it was not related to SAR, it was just their RF supervision was often the coil was broken. But I do recall this wonderful, great barbecue smell all around in the floor for days going on. So when you're all through with that, you're considered an ultra high field expert. This is when Heiner Kohlem got me in charge of these guys. Andreas was there. Herbert Tyne, he started this. Ulrich Foncius, Bernd Stöckel, and some mechanics guys there. Oops, I got and Carsten and Ulrich, they are in there. So they told me take care. He told me take care of the ultra high field, sell it, improve it, expand it, find a killer application. And for me, that was good because it got me even closer to MGH and saved my at least 2 or 3 times trip to Boston, which I'm always happy to come back. So here are a few pictures from the MGH installation. And I had my camera somewhere set up. And let me start with this one. So the first ultra high field magnet, they needed a lot of iron shielding to keep the fringe field in tame. So here's an example, the 9.40 in Jülich, it's 660 tons. That's about what they have for balancing the 101 World Trade tower in where is it, Malaysia? Taipei, or in Taipei, yeah? And it's actually, it is the Trump Tower, it's the Trump Tower. And they finally had that statement there, do not lean against the post. I was wondering there, everything. But anyway, I think we all need a little bit help of balance, especially a guy named Trump in these days. The 70 here, I mean, that's the design of the shielding. In the middle, it had fat slabs of iron. And here are some buildings, some pictures from the Big Dig too. I mean, at the same time, they worked on the Big Dig. And Larry showed, and I recall this one. When the trucks came in with the iron, there were 23 trucks. And I saw them along the Chelsea Street or Chelsea Avenue, whatever that's called. And I was looking for getting a picture of that. They were lined up. When I came to MGH in the morning, I said, oh, what is this? And it was really impressive. So they came in with the trucks, put out the iron in the right order, and then build it up in the right way. And then got the magnet in, Larry already showed, and then cooled it down. At that time, helium was not in shortage. Later on, we had really critical situation. This was a funny picture. I think Christina was visiting Chris Wiggins in Maastricht, and he brought him a little balloon, helium-filled balloon for getting his 9.40 up again. Anyway, the field is up when your tape measure is floating in the air. This is what Rainer Gehr did. And voila, 3 to 4 months later, welcome to your magnetome. It's up. And then you had a kind of bunch of happy campers there. And then the run for the first images got on. And I recall it this way. Larry and Andreas put on their best working suit they ever had and went straight to work. On day one, they had this, this head coil image. On day 2, the surface coil. And day 3 already the macaque, live awake monkey macaque images. It was very impressive. And they even had, oh, this video doesn't work. Okay, it's too bad. They even had, I think I have, okay, here it goes. They even had their first whole body images. It was actually from a mouse, and the video didn't work here. And then when you're up there, done with all the animal images and the fruit images and whatever, some places in Japan, they had sushis in there on a special rack and scanned sushi before they do the first human scan. Andreas decided, I go in there, I build it up, I'm the one. So he was thinking about, should I stay or should I go? And there's a good track of images on this you can see later on. So he went in there and we had Harald, our safety watchdog, that basically was connected to Andreas' thumb, I think. We stringed the line up to his thumb. So when he felt bad, so we would go in there and pull him out slowly, not quick, because this is 70. And then did the first images. It all went well. And images didn't look that bad. I mean, Larry mentioned already, it had some issues, the dielectric effects, and also these kind of third arm artifacts. The first really exciting images, Larry showed that also, were these monkey images, and also this entorhinal cortex island image. And I recall then whenever I showed these pictures, Camille came up, are these in vivo or ex vivo? So I stated it here, it is ex vivo, but it's very impressive. And then the comparison 3T70. So it really showed that the signal to noise increase is more than a factor of 2. This is what we all were looking for. And then these T2 star imaging triggered by the NIH work, the early NIH work, Jeff Dunn, Pete Van Kelder, and these fellows, they with Graham and Chris, I think, put together very impressive data. These images were floating around in the 70 world. And then you end up with what you do with the RF coil. So this is a picture I took from Larry's board in his office some time ago. And MGH was very essential in developing RF coils, which are now all over the place in every MR scanner. So this is how I got in there, understanding the importance of phased array when I had my first stay at the Beth Israel in Boston. So we had a body coil and a surface coil. And a good friend of mine told me, this is just like, you have this very fast EPI scanner. This is just like driving a Ferrari, but having tires from a horse buggy, because it really slows you down. So then in the 94 or so, all this stuff around phased array is coming, and it was obvious that you can gain signal to noise significantly just by using phased array and the right image reconstruction. Factor of 2 is something very, very great. So in 2003, when MGH started, 8-channel was normal. And Larry had this idea with putting a lot of loops around the head. And we had some strange discussions with guys from Erlangen coming in there about the usefulness of this. Some guys didn't really get it. That kind of technology took off when Graham came in there to build these coils, and also then later Boris took that up. And then it was really outstanding to see the results. So this is a 3D 32-channel coil. And there were two reasons why these coils are advantageous. One of is SNR. I mean, you see the SNR difference in the center between the standard 12-channel we had and the 32. People were debating about where this is coming from. It's closer to the coil, basically. In the peripheral, it's the loop coil. But the main argument is the acceleration. And MGH took that up on the 70. Chris Graham built a 32-channel coil, and they went up with a resolution for fMRI. These are all highly accelerated fMRI scan with a 20th of the resolution used at that time for fMRI. All the fMRI folks typically used on the 3T scanner. So this was in-plane acceleration. Christina and Larry explored the field of physiological noise there and why it is worth going for this high resolution, because physiological noise goes up with the field. So the first thought was it's not really gaining, but when you go to high resolution, this is where you gain. And then, of course, Kavin took it off. Kavin is a fast guy running his Porsche Carrera. So he came up with this simultaneous multi-slide. What is it? I think in 1.3 second, 32 slices. And John got into creating this famous layer-specific fMRI with an M. And I recall when Larry showed that in Munich some time ago, and Camille was there, and the Minnesota folks, and Larry just said, and by the way, the M stands for MGH, not Minnesota.